Okay, everyone. I was just getting the chat set up. If you're looking at the page now, you at the bottom right, there's a little chat, and I see that Bob's testing the chat, so it's working okay. Bob, hello, Bob. Hi, Kevin. So that's good. I see you guys on there. Let's just, this is where we're going to be asking the questions. So any questions you have as we go through, just go ahead and put them on there. And at the end, I'll kind of go through and make sure that I touch up on anything that I might have missed. Or if there's something specific at that specific time, just make sure you go through the chat. So if you're not signed into the chat, it's in the bottom right corner. You might have to put your email and get it on there. Can anybody else hear me? People are saying that they can't hear me. Can everybody hear me? Just put something. Just put something in the chat if you can hear me. Okay, seems like people are starting to hear me again. I've also got the Skype group chat opened up, so if for some reason the chat's not working for you, you can go ahead and pop something on Skype. But let's try to keep the Skype chatter to a minimum so I don't jump over there just thinking that it's a question that I might have missed. We'll give people a few minutes to figure out the audio issues. And also, the way Hangouts work is you're going to be watching this from the beginning. So just because you put in a question, you might not get to answer it right away because the actual Hangout's not quite live. It just depends on what time you jumped on, but you will get to see the whole thing. So if you put in a question, just be sure that I will answer it. I'm getting a few, everybody's saying that sounds good, sounds good, sounds good. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. I've got Brian on with me too as well. I've got him muted at the moment. He's on an air card, so he's trying to save bandwidth. But once we get going and we go through the build, I'll go ahead and unmute him in case he has anything that he wants to jump in and say. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And you should be able to see my screen on here. So actually, let me change something out real quick. So it's not so confusing. Let me share the screen, but I'll just share the specific browser so it's not so confusing. There we go. So you guys should be seeing the ATM screen. I'm logged in right into the ATM. And yes, I can see the chat. And anytime they put something on chat, I'm able to see it. And let's go ahead and jump right into it. So basically what I want to do for today is take you through how I build the sites, just my way of doing it. I try to keep it as simple as possible. I try to do as little spinning as possible because it seems like we might have confused you guys a little bit by mentioning spinning and mentioning shortcodes. I don't use a ton of shortcodes. I don't use a lot of spinning. I try to keep it as simple as possible. I try to make it to where the system, I could hand it off to anybody and they could build the sites for me, which is usually what's happening now. So I wanted to take you just from the very beginning, from picking a keyword to buying the domain, adding it to Cloudflare, adding it to the app, and going through all that. So that way I can make sure that in case there's any questions along the way, I can hit on those. I'm going to go ahead and unmute Brian so that he can, if he has anything to say before we get started. Brian, you should be, go ahead and unmute yourself so you can, if there's anything you need to say before we get started.
Hi guys, how are you? Sorry I'm on an air card, as a bunch of you guys know from some of the support that I've been handling. because I'm away right now, so I'm not on true high speed. I can't wait to get a lot of this stuff done. So this way, everybody knows how to use the ATM, and then it's a lot easier to help with all your questions. Andres, if you want to go on and take off from here, I'll sit in the background and I'll wait and ask you some questions in the middle while we're doing this. I don't know why, but I can't see the chat at the moment. I don't know what's going on with that.
Okay, well, I'll keep an eye on the chat. If you want to just go ahead and mute yourself whenever you got a question, just unmute it and pop in so that way it doesn't randomly pick you up. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I've got the areas of interest pulled up here from this is right from our forum, where it shows the different areas of interest that Campus Explorer deals with. I had already kind of looked a little bit into it before I jumped on the call, on the Hangout here, and I think I was going to go with HVAC. So let's just, that's the one we're going with. So basically what I do is I'll jump on Google and I'll put in
Andres?
Yes.
Andres? Maybe instead of doing it that way, why don't we start with everybody showing them with the buying of the domain and stuff, and literally start at number one step.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to show them. Yeah, no, I got it.
Oh, okay. You mean an EMD style? Yes, you mean EMD style. I apologize. Go ahead. I apologize.
Okay. All right. So I try to find out what are the different language, because you have schools, you have programs, you have training, you've got certifications. One of the ones I see here. So I just try to see. I'll put in HVAC and try to find what's one of the more popular ones that Google kind of tends to hint at me. So I see both certification and training. And if I put that in there and I go through, I'll see that, it's showing me different schools type stuff. And also at the bottom, kind of giving me some other ideas that I could possibly do. And the two that keep on popping out is training and certification. So then I will jump over to just with that idea and notice that I'm not doing any research on numbers or how many searches or anything it's doing. Just because I've done it so much that I know that you can either way you go with certification, with training, with schools, with programs, any of those classes, you're going to get a decent amount of searches and it's all going to be relevant. So I don't waste any time looking to see which one's going to have the most numbers. I'm trying to hit ideally every single one of those combinations in the content and in the URL and the site. So we're doing it all at once. So I've got I'm going to name sheet opened up here. I know that I definitely want HVAC in the domain, but the other stuff is, could be a little bit different. So I'm going to put training, certification, info, and let's see if that one's available. Okay, and it's saying that HVAC training certification info.com is available, so I'm going to go ahead and add it. Go ahead and check out, and notice that once you hit, one thing that I haven't pointed out to you guys is as you start adding domains to your Namecheap account, if you are using Namecheap, go ahead and reach out to support because they have tiers. Once you hit like 50 domains in your account, then they'll give you a little discount. Once you hit 100, they'll give you another discount. So now I'm at a point where I don't even have to apply a coupon code just because that's already been applied to my account. And I'm just going to go ahead and confirm this.
Once you have over 500, Andres, it automatically goes into the lowest tier possible.
Right, and I think that's where both Brian and I are at. It gives us the cheapest pricing possible that they would allow without any coupons or anything like that. So we're just purchasing the domain. Right after we purchase the domain, we want to go ahead and get this domain added to Cloudflare before we even add it to our cPanel account. So I've got the domain. I'm going to copy this URL. And I've got Cloudflare opened up here. So I'm already logged into Cloudflare. You should already have a Cloudflare account. But I'm logged in, I'm pasting the domain, I'm going to add the website. Now this is live. Unfortunately, I can't pause the video, so we got to wait for the 60-second record scan. A couple of tabs I have open just to kind of get an idea of how I like to do my work, how I work. Is I've got the ATM app open, I have Namecheap in another area, Cloudflare, I've got the cPanel, I've got an article directory over here where I'm going to grab the article out of. Google search window, and I'm going to also touch on Amazon AWS because I've noticed some people are having issues with that. So I'm going to touch a little bit on that. So I just have that one open.
Hey, Andres?
Yes.
I think what we should do for everyone is we'll put all of those tabs in Don's PDF that's coming out, so you guys know, until you get used to it, guys, exactly what windows you should have open on your browser, so this way you can toggle back and forth and make your life easier. As you just saw what Andres did, all that does is make your life easier, period.
Yeah, and we've got, so now it says that it's got the domain record scanned, which actually I wish you could skip that step because we're going to go through and delete the majority of those records. So I'm going to go through and now this first one, I'm actually going to edit this A record because that needs to be pointed to the IP of your cPanel. And I see here that the IP for mine is this one. So I'm going to go to this first record. I'm going to edit it and just use that there. And then the rest I'm going to delete because I don't need any of these. This is actually, all these are pointed to, currently I haven't made any name server changes in Namecheap.
Those are the mail, you guys, right, and those are MX records, guys. For those that don't understand what an MX record is, that's for your email. It's worthless. You don't need it. You're not emailing from these accounts.
All right, so now that we've got the A record, I edited it to the correct IP. We need to add a CNAME. That's going to be www, and basically what we're doing is just copying the main URL up here and added it as a CNAME right there. And then we also need another CNAME that's FTP, and that's going to be your FTP domain. And we are copying and pasting this URL as well. And this is so that when we go to install the site, it lets it not notice that the cloud automatically turns to gray. This means that all FTP traffic does not go through Cloudflare at all. So it's just direct FTP traffic, and we want it that way. So just make sure you leave it like that. And then we're gonna, it's gonna say that we're not using any MX records, like Brian said. That's for emailing and that whatnot. So we don't need any of that. Leave all the settings as is on the next page, and then hit continue. And finally, it's going to tell me what I can set as my name server. So I'm going to copy these, and I still have Namecheap opened over here. So I can go to my account, just type in the URL here so it goes straight to it. HBSO training certification info.com. Oops. Let's see, it's let me copy it straight from there. So if you're using Namecheap, this is what the screen will look like. We go to transfer DNS to name web host. And I'm going to copy this two name servers right in here. So we've got Chip and we have Cruise. We can save those changes. And so basically, to touch on what we've done is we purchased the domain, we added it to Cloudflare, we modified the name servers in their domain registrar, and now we're ready to add the domain to hosting to the cPanel account. So let's go over to my cPanel. I'm going to go to add-on domains. type in the domain name, or I like to copy and paste. That way I can make sure that I don't have any errors or misspell anything or just mess up anywhere. So got that. It's giving me that it's not a valid. It didn't fill it in for me, so I'm just going to try type in something different there. Asking me to put in a password. We actually don't need to worry too much about this password. We won't be using it, but I'm just going to pick that. Keep in mind what this is. I'm going to go ahead and copy this and just keep it in my clipboard, because I will be using this when I add the domain to the ATM. So just keep in mind what that is right there, this one. You can copy and paste it into a text document. And I'm going to add this domain.
Can you explain, Andres? Could you explain subdomain and why they don't need the password on there, please?
Because when we add the domain to the ATM, we're going to be using the cPanel password. We're not going to be using this FTP password. So the main password you have to worry about is the cPanel password. This is if for some reason you were using like FileZilla and you wanted to log in specifically to this domain, but the way the ATM works is we work with the cPanel password. So it's added the domain here. And now you're breaking up, Brian.
Out of here, I would suggest making an FTP username and a password that's standard through all your stuff, because if you move the domain from our servers to your own server, you might want to use it then. Just so you have it on a spreadsheet for going forward. We don't use them, and that's why Andres explained that. But just remember, for future reference, guys, you might need it. So it's up to you. It's not something you have to do. Thank you, Andres.
All right. So we've got it all added on as an add-on domain now. Now we can jump over to the ATM and add this domain to your site. So we go over to my sites. We're going to add a new site. Site name, like we mentioned before, this is going to be the main title for your blog, for your WordPress installation. So this is HVAC certification training info. Site URL. And I'm going to jump down real quick just to FTP path. I'm going to paste something in there, and I'll touch on it later. I just didn't want to lose it because I knew I had it saved on my clipboard. But site URL, we can just take it right out of cPanel here. But please keep in mind you need to put in http:// I'm going to paste that URL in there. Make sure there's no spaces. And then also make sure you end with a /. It's very important to have that / at the end. If not, when it deploys it, there's going to be some errors. The site's not going to extract correctly. When you try to visit the site from the email you receive from the program, you're going to get some errors. If you try to use the promote button that we have built in, you're going to get some errors. So that little / is very important, and we do have something that we're working on to make sure that there's a check in place in case you forget to put it in. But meanwhile, just always remember to have that /. The username.
Guys, the / we've had /.
You broke up there at the end, Brian.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said, guys, we've had support tickets for this / being missing. We know it's a pain in the neck to remember some little things because we never hard-coded it in. Don's having a problem with the hard code on that because he just doesn't have the time with all the other things that we're doing. So please, until that gets hard-coded in, please, 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 don't forget the / because you're going to send a ticket in. We're going to look at it and tell you forgot it, and then it's a problem. We got to bomb it. We got to fix a site. Then it causes more work. Just please try and remember it. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Okay. The blog username is what you're going to use to log into your WP admin installation. Once the site is fully done and you need to log in to do the cleanup, to make some changes, that's what you're going to use. So whatever you put on here, I typically don't recommend using admin just because that's the what WordPress does by default. So if somebody's trying to hack into your blog, they're going to try to use admin. So I mean, even if you just change it up by doing 1, 2, 3, but it's ideally just do something that's not admin. Password, just for this sake of presentation, I'm going to do something simple. But then once again, make sure that this is a nice, secure password. So nobody, I think we've already had an instance of somebody saying that maybe it was with Surfshaker, but that their blog was hacked. So just change the admin, change the password, make sure that it's something nice and secure.
Guys, use one of the funny characters, an exclamation money sign. Use them. Even if it's only one of them that you use, put it in there. It stops your stuff from getting hacked. Very important.
The FTP domain is, if we jump over to cPanel again, or actually it's in the Cloudflare, apologize. So I finished this up. I never hit update, but we've got, so if we were to look at this HBAC, we noticed that we looked at DNS settings, we noticed that we added the FTP here. So in reality, it's just FTP dot whatever the domain is. So if we copy this domain here, and we just do FTP dot and that domain, that's what your FTP domain is. Now, the username and the password is not the username and password you created when you added it on. It's really the cPanel username and the cPanel password. And we've made a note of it here, but for myself, this is the demo account that I was using for the training videos, and the password, I also made it simple on that one. But these right here, these demo 003, password 123, that's my cPanel username, that's my cPanel password that I've been using for the training videos. So that's what I'm using here. I'm not using the FTP URL or the FTP user that was created here whenever I did the username, password, all that. I'm not using that. And then finally, I said that I was, when we added the domain here, it gave me this document root, and I copied that, and then I just pasted it down here because I didn't want to lose it out of my clipboard. But basically, it takes this public HTML, and every time you add on a domain, it creates a new folder for that specific domain. So we want to make sure that we put it on here, and we put it in here so that when the application, when the ATM app goes to publish these files, it knows exactly what folder to put it in. So this is very important because you could go through the whole process of creating the site, but if this information is wrong, the app will have no idea where to put those files, where to install it, and you would just, you might even get an email saying that your site is complete, but when you go try to visit it, you'll notice that there's no files or nothing in there, and that's possibly what happened, is that it never found a directory to be able to put that in. But once you do all this, you can go ahead and add the site. We notice here that we have the site added on now. And once the site's in there, we can move on to the content side of things and start creating some content for this.
Test it first, please, Andres. Show them the CGI page just so they can see that.
The CGI, you're breaking up there.
Please just test the site to show them the index page, just the index page.
Okay. So yes, if you want to make sure before you make anything live, just visit the URL and make sure that you see an index. Here, basically what this is showing us is that we set up Cloudflare correctly, and we set up the name servers and Namecheap has propagated it correctly. and everything's good to go. So if you try to load up your URL and you don't see this index, that means that somewhere along one of those two steps got messed up. You either put in the wrong IP or set up the wrong records here, or you haven't gone to the domain name server setup and changed the name servers here. Okay, so we've tested it. That seems to be working okay. Let's go ahead and jump over to content.
Guys, we're going to end up getting a lot of more support tickets for mistakes made within Cloudflare and your cPanel. Please do us a favor. We'll help you. I promise. Andres, Don, and myself will help you. But we really want you to make sure you checked everything first. That's all we're asking. Okay? Thank you.
All right, so let's jump over. We're going to add new content. We haven't saved anything in here, haven't pulled anything up. Now, the content, I think one of the questions that was emailed is how, if I could touch on, I mentioned before, rebuilding a site, if I needed to rebuild a site. Now, one of the things that I want to point out is if you want to have the option of rebuilding a site and keeping the same exact URL structure that you've used before, so that way when you rebuild the site you don't have any 404 errors, or you don't have the Googlebot coming to trying to visit a page that was there before and now it's gone because you deleted it and put a new one up, is don't spin your titles. I personally have never spun titles. I think we tested out the feature, but I've just run into so many situations that I have a site that's a year old. I want to sell it, and the seller maybe doesn't like some of the wording in one of the posts or something. I can easily rebuild it if I haven't spun the page titles. If I did spin those page titles, there's no way I can rebuild that and easily, because whenever you do any spinning, it's at random, so you have no idea. Even if I were to use the same spun title twice, I'd probably not end up with the same URL structure for that specific city. So it just messes things up if you spin the title, but it's completely up to you. You're able to do that. The way I do it, I do not spin post titles.
Guy, let me cut you off for a minute, Andres. Maybe we should show them why. Like when you're talking about HVAC schools in, and you show them right on Google why we don't spin the titles, because that's not how people search by a lot of the spun stuff, and we just go. You remember what I'm talking about?
No, I'll just go with it, and we'll see if any questions pop up. So I'm gonna go ahead and starting off, let me just pull up a piece of content that I'm going to kind of work off of. And I use article directories a lot to kind of get either snippets of tests or just grab the whole article. For the sake of this, kind of keep it brief, I'm just going to grab a whole article. I've used ezine articles in the past. There's also one called Articles Base. And I like to do just a site search, use the site operator, so site : go ahead and put in the URL of this article directory, and I'm going to put it in HVAC schools, and you can see it popped up because I did a test search earlier. But so once again, it's site : and the URL, and then also the keyword that you want to search for, HVAC schools. I had looked at this one a few minutes before we started the Hangout. And I looked through it real quick. Seems like it was a good, complete article. So I'm going to copy parts of it. I'm just going to grab this first paragraph here. I'm just going to drop it into the ATM here. And I notice it added some formatting, so I got to make sure that I go in there and I take that out, but I'll show you how to do that. And then same thing, I'm going to just copy the rest of the article and just drop it all in there, and then that way I can, once it's in the app, I can manipulate it and do whatever I need to do it with it. So if I look at the source code, I notice that it added some formatting to it. So different ways you can prevent this, and I think I'm actually going to do it this way now because I didn't realize it's going to add this much formatting. The best way would be to take this whole article that I pasted in here, and I'm going to copy it, but I'm going to go ahead and paste it into a text editor, and you're not going to, unfortunately here on the screen, it only lets me just show you my browser window. So it's not going to pop up here on the screen, but I'm just using, I know in Windows you have Notepad++. On Mac, I use BB Edit, which is bare bones editor. So just something that's going to strip out all that formatting, and we just want plain text. And I copied in there, pasted it, and I'm going to bring it back over to the app, and I'm going to just repaste it in, and notice how it all of a sudden all that formatting, if I go to source, you notice that you're not going to find any of that random formatting that it had on there. And then, so now I've got the article in there. Let's go back to the content title. We said that the main keyword is what you were going for is HVAC training certification. So I'm going to use a few variations of that in my title. We've got HVAC training certification in. We're going to use the city state. We want to make sure that we don't make any mistakes when we put it in there. So instead of just writing it out, I'm going to copy and paste. And then I also like to hit some supporting keywords at the end. So find, maybe we'll do full state then, just to switch it up a little bit. And I'll hit another main keyword, which I know it's schools. So we've got HVAC training certification in city state, find full state schools. So basically what I'm trying to do here is if somebody puts in HVAC training in their city, ideally I've got it covered. If they put in HVAC certification in their city, I've got it covered. If they put in HVAC schools in their city, I should have it covered. So, and this, whatever you put on here goes as the URL structure. It's also the title for the page. So there's a lot of different places that it gets used, and it's good. One of the main SEO aspects of it is to make sure you've got those keywords in there. Now the meta description, I like to play around with this. Every now and then I'll do a search on Google, and I've got my Google window tab here at the end, and I'll kind of start looking around and see what these people that are using paid ads are actually using as their descriptions, or maybe some of the top ranking ones, because I know that they've taken the time to test this out, especially the paid ads. They're taking the time to test this out. They're using money, so that these kind of things are working. So I'm going to copy some of this, and it says save time going to schools. I'm going to put in city state in there, so I make sure that I hit city state. Save time going to city state offering HVAC training courses. So now I've inserted there a separate complementary keyword, the courses. We haven't mentioned that before. Find local, we'll use full state. Programs. Now the tags, I think this is the one area where Brian, Don, and I all kind of do it differently. I like to just grab the ones directly from down here, and I just add city state to it, and I can probably go ahead and show you how to do that real easily. If you notice here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, so there's 8 different tabs here. We can take these straight from Google, and let me make sure that this window is showing. Okay, that's the correct window there. So I'm typing in the different tabs here. Notice it's one per line. No empty spaces. There's 8 different tags. So I'm going to use these. Just say that approximately tags per group. I know that it's going to be 8 tags per group. Now make sure when you do this, if you load up more than 10 keywords here, always make this 10. We don't want to overload a site with more than 10 tags per post. So you can load up a list of 100 different keywords here, but just make sure you put 10, or at least, you know, the most you put in here is 10. We don't want to overload the system. And hit submit. And it's going to generate this for me, which is just different variations of these tags with city, state, city, full state, city, state, SIP. Now I can just copy this. And let me switch over to this window again. And we're going to paste them here in the tabs. So we're using 8 tags for this site, and this just helps randomize it a little bit. And then categories, we only use full state in categories, but we can add a little bit to it. So we can do HVAC training programs in full state, but do not use any other shortcodes other than full state, or you're going to end up with a ton of categories, and it's really, it might even, your build might not even end up going through.
Yeah, it will definitely penalize your site, guys. Full state is the only thing you use in there. Plus, it jams up the ATM application really bad.
Okay, so now we can start actually going through the content and doing a few different things to it. The first thing that I'm going to add is I'm going to just right away I'm going to put in the ADU SIP widget. I like to have mine right at the top. But that's how I've always built my site. Is the very first thing that shows up is the zip code widget. That's what's worked best for me. It's always how I've always done it. But you have the option of putting it wherever you want. But that just works really well for me. Now I can start going through, and ideally what I'm going to go through is I'm going to go through the article here, and I'm just going to drop city, state, or city state SIP if we're using zip codes, which I've noticed that the tags here had city, state, SIP. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I do make this a zip code build. But I'm going to go ahead and drop that throughout to make sure that it's as relevant as possible to that city. So right away, to work as an HVAC technician, I'm going to go ahead and put in city, state, SIP. You need to undergo formal HVAC trouble as required by, and I can get rid of this your local area, and I can go put full state in here. Now it seems this is supposed to be a title, so I'm going to go ahead and make this trade schools in city, state, SIP. Select that. Make it a heading. Traditional way of getting training, trade schools. And
always H2 tag, guys, for those headings. Not H3, not H1. H2 tags in the body.
Well, it's actually a good idea to have a good variation of H2. The H1 is automatically created from the title. Whenever the page gets generated, H1 will be the title. So the rest of them are going to be H2, and if you want to even go down to an H3, if it makes sense in the content, it just looks good to have the city, state, SIP as an H3 as well. Typically, I don't get down as far as down to an H3. Most of the ones that I do are H2, but if you wanted to, it will probably also be good as well. And so I'm just going through, like I said, I'm really just going through and making sure. I'm going to go ahead and take some of these and bold them. just to add some relevancy. Basically, just if you've looked into, read anything about SEO, anything at all, used any of those SEO plugins that check whether things have been bolded, italicized, if you have the H1 tag, H2 tag, if you have an ALT tag, all of that stuff is what we're applying here, but we also don't want to overdo it. If I see an area where I can drop in city-state without it being attached to one of the main keywords, I'll go ahead and drop it in there. And I'm just reading through and seeing, here's another one that is looks like it's meant to be a heading. Another HVAC training route and city-state SIP is a formal apprenticeship. Here's another title, online courses in. And I normally actually kind of fly through this process. I don't try to take too much time, because the idea is to get these sites out as fast as possible. But you can go through and make sure that things are making sense. Demand for HVAC technicians. There's another area that I can add city-state SIP. And I'm going to go ahead and italicize this one. Okay, so now for the most part I've got the content looking like I would like it. Now there's a few different things we want to do too. We want to add a map. I always like to add a map to it, and we can add that at the bottom. It doesn't have to be anywhere in the content, so I'm just going to use this Google map code on there that Don has built in, and also an image. We want to make sure that we have an image. Now, I realize people are having issues with the S3 setup, so let's touch on that a little bit. I've got my S3, my AWS account pulled up. I'm already signed up with AWS. I'm going to jump over to S3. I'm going to create a new bucket so we can start with something from scratch. Let me just create a new bucket. Let me just name it, let's see, ATM images. Go ahead and create that. We've got ATM images. And if I right click and hit properties, we want to make sure that we make this public. Where the way you do that is making sure that you grant everyone view permissions. But that just means that the bucket's public, people can see what's in it. We save that. And so now we've got this ATM images, which is my bucket name. So if I go to the ATM, hit S3, let me clear out these things in here. My bucket name is ATM, and it's all caps, images, the way I set it up. Now we need the access key and the secret key. So if you go, when you're signed in and you go to security credentials, and we go to access keys, we can create a new access key. And I already have the most, so I'm going to have to deactivate one of these. And now I should be able to create a new one. Go back over to Reloaded. It's not letting me create a new one. Let me see if I can just delete this one. There we go. Now I can create a new one. And it's going to show me the 2 access keys that I need to use. Make sure you save this and put it in a safe place, because once you get them, you can't retrieve them again. So here's this where I'm going to copy the access key. Here's the secret key. And I'm going to hit OK. Now this is stored, this information is stored in a cookie. So if you delete your cookies, you cleared, excuse me. I'm sorry, I had to get a drink. But if you clear out your cookies or do anything with deleting the cookies or anything, this information is going to delete. You're going to have to put it back in there. So just make sure that if you do that, when you come back to the app, you put that back in. So I'm just going to hit OK. That information's there. Now if I go over to click the image button and click Browse Server, it's going to tell me that the folder is empty. But before I do that, before I show you any of this, I actually need an image that I can use. So let me just do a quick Google search for HVAC training. Let's just look for images. Now this isn't the legal way to do it because you don't know the rights of any of these images, but you could purchase these from iStock Photo or anything like that. I'm just going to go ahead and grab one of these. I'm going to save it.
It doesn't have a watermark. If it doesn't have a watermark in it, you're pretty good. You're not going to worry too much. Just really look for that watermark, guys.
But it's still, just be careful, because I know of places like Getty Images that really come after people. So this is just for demonstration purposes. When you're really when you're doing this, try to just make sure you have the rights to use that image. So I'm just going to save this. When you save it, try to put those keywords in there as the title as well. So I'm going to name it HVAC Training Certification. Now that I have an image I can actually use with the app, now I come back over here. I'm going to click the image button. I'm going to click Browse Server. I know you guys can't see this. Let me switch the window that's showing on the Google Hangout at the moment. There we go. You should be able to see the one that shows that the folder is empty. We're going to hit Upload. I'm going to choose the picture I just downloaded, and I'm just going to double click it. Go back to the other window. And now that image is going to be there. It's got the width and height already put in there. I want to make sure that we set the ALT text, HVAC Training Certification in City, State, SIP. Let's add some spacing just so it looks nice, and we'll make it align right. So notice it added it all the way at the bottom here. If I wanted to, I could go to Source View, grab that code that it put in here, this image, cut, and bring it. Let's say I wanted to have it somewhere near the top. I can just paste it right up here, and if I could add a source code, you notice that it brings the image right up the top. So now we've got city state zip throughout. We've got the CLG main. We have a map. We have an image. We've got some stuff in H2 tags. We've got things bolded. We've got things italicized. Let's look for a authority link, going to an authority domain or source. Let's just put in HVAC training. Maybe there is some kind of organizations. These are all different schools. These are all schools. So let's do HVAC and maybe look for Wikipedia. So let's just take this. We're going to take this URL, select any of these HVAC words. Let's see, let me look for something that's, let's see, local HVAC bodies and organizations. I don't want to do a exact match outgoing link. I typically just like to select a random words as long as HVAC is in there. Let's paste this in there. HTTP is already there. Notice that if I select HTTP, it takes the HTTP out of my URL. And you could do this a couple times, maybe 2 or 3 authority outgoing links. I just do 1, but it's completely up to you. And then finally, as far as shortcodes, like you notice I didn't do any spinning whatsoever throughout here, but I do have one shortcode.
Andres, 1 second. Could you go back to your anchor text for a minute, please?
To the what?
The anchor text. Okay. Guys, Andres used one, if you noticed, he used one piece of anchor text. The one he used was a Wikipedia. We only like to use Wikipedias, .govs, .edus, stuff that is really powerful as far as anchor text goes, and you can spin them. We do make short codes for them and spin them. Could you show them how you hit the drop down in protocol for other on that, Andres, as well at the end? It's very important that they understand that, because you don't want to just use one all the time. You know, Andres is showing you how, because we're training you. But going forward, you're going to use a lot. You might make a lot of HVAC sites. You don't want to use just one link to go back to one authority link. You want to switch it up with a lot of different ones.
Right, and if and that's simple to do, even just going through, if you look at the source view here, if we were looking at where I inserted that link, let's see, where is it? Seems like the content's getting cut off here, but basically you would be able to, like Brian was saying, if you do it over here, you could do other, and you can throw in here just different, HTTP, and spin it right through here. And then, you add a bracket and do another one. And
Andres, no. You have to make a short code to use other. The protocol is other only with a short code.
Right. Well, you could do it both ways. You could do it with the short code. You could do it right on here. I've tested it both ways. It works both. If you were to do other and you do a short code, you would load up the, let me hit cancel here, open up a new tab here, add a new short code. Let's say we call these URLs. And then I can load up a whole, we could do website1.com, HTTP, wikipedia.com, and HTTP google.com. Make sure that this content is spun. We can add that data. So now we've got URLs. And if we go back over to over here, we would put it in as other and just drop the shortcode in there and it would spin those out if we were to do it that way. But I'm going to go ahead and change this, go back over to HTTP, and I'm just going to copy leave it like that. Then, so we've got all this. I've yet to use any shortcodes, but I do like to have a fully spun paragraph at the end. So I've already got one in here, and if we look at it, notice it's just a really long, super spun paragraph. And some people are wondering, how can you come up with one? So the easiest way is using the program we use is Spin Rewriter. And let's just say I'm going to take these last two right here, paste them right into Spin Rewriter. I only like to rewrite complete sentences. I don't do any of the other ones. You can, and it will give you more spinning, but I like to keep it as simple as possible. Basically, Spin Rewriter is going through right now. And then I use the one-click rewrite feature. I keep it to where I use the synonyms that Spin Rewriter is really confident about. We can do multi-level nested spinning. And then the only word that I'm worried about protecting is HVAC. Everything else it's completely up to you if you don't want any specific words to spin or not, but HVAC is the only one that I'm trying to make sure that they don't change at all. We can go through the one-click rewrite process. It's going to go through and spin everything for us. We go to the final step, and basically this is what we take and copy. We go over to the ATM, we go to shortcodes, create a new shortcode. Let's call this last paragraph. Paste that data in there. Make sure you select that this content needs to be spun. We can add that. So now I have this last paragraph that I can grab and throw right into the content, maybe right before the map itself. And if I notice that I copied it straight from the app, but if we look at the source view, it seems like it added a little bit extra formatting in there. So we can go ahead and delete all that. That's because I copied it from the app itself. Go back to regular view. And if sometime, if I'm going through and I did some of it, but I'm not completely finished with the content, and any time I can hit add content, and that's almost a safe button, and I can come back to it and continue working to it. So if at any time, I know that one of the main things was people were saying that, how do we save the content if we need to walk away? Just hit add content, and you'll then be able to come back and put that in there. So this feature right here, that would have prevented the problem that I had with having the styling that got added on. So let's say I wanted to add that last paragraph. I can just close it click it right in here, and it will add it for me. Same thing for the URLs that I was using or the closing paragraph that I've already got on there. So this is actually a new feature that was just added on. So now we've got that. I can update the content. And now we're ready to make the site live. To do that, we go over to content again, but instead of hitting edit, I just hit WP. And I'm going to do just one state so we can make it a short build that won't take forever.
Just do Florida or Rhode Island, a small state. Just do Florida.
So I've just picked one state. If you're building this out, ideally you just want to do a whole United States. You don't want to just do one state. But if you just want to test real quick to make sure everything's okay, you could do, like Alaska or Florida, just one of the smaller states. Actually, Florida is one of the bigger ones. Alaska will be smaller. But make sure everything else is correct. It should be. We just went through everything. Sidebar, the way I do it, I do the CLG side widget at the very top, then I do random post, and then I do categories, but it's completely up to you. If you wanted to put something completely different there, you're able to put your own text in here, or after the site is live, you can go in and add your own widgets. It doesn't matter. For selecting the site to generate, we are going to be using the HVAC training. Select script. You do need to have a script, so let's say for some reason, let's go back over before we get any further. Let's jump over to scripts. You don't have any kind of script whatsoever. You can add one, just call it blank, have anything in it, add that script, and this is a blank one. So then I go back over to content, WP, pick a state, do my quick selection again. And we can just use the blank tracking code, and we can go ahead and queue the WordPress site. Now, once you queue it, there's nothing in place telling you that, yes, you've queued your site, but once you've hit that queue button, there's no reason that you need to go back in and queue it again or do anything to it. You can just go ahead and move on to the next one. Don't try to reuse that content to go ahead and queue maybe just another domain. If you want to use the same exact content, copy it and paste it, create a new content ID, because it would just mess things up if you try to do that. And it's this content and the site's going to continue to show on here as not deployed until it has actually been deployed. So just make sure you only queue things once, even if it doesn't look like you queued it. Just queue things once, and you shouldn't have any issues for it. And it's going to show how many ones are in the queue, how many are currently generating. Seems like there's a backlog of ones that are generating at the moment, so we might not even get to see the one that we generated live. Hopefully we do, but we'll see. And so maybe while I'm waiting for that, I'm gonna start going through and hitting some of the questions. So let's see. I'm gonna start just randomly putting up questions here. First one's from Peter. When you add a subdomain, do I do it CNAME too, and how would I add that into Cloudflare, into cPanel, into ATM? So that's a good question. But let's say we wanted to go ahead and do a subdomain of this domain that I just purchased, which is the HVAC trading one. So first we need to add that subdomain to cPanel. So if we go to cPanel, we go to subdomains, and let's pick this HVAC training certification, and let's just call this sub1. So a couple of things here. This is going to be the subdomain name. It's going to be sub1.hvactrainingcertificationinfo.com. Here's the directory where that subdomain is going to go, which we need to keep this in mind. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and we can go ahead and hit create. Okay, so now that the subdomain's been created, we can add this subdomain to the ATM app. We go over to sites. We're going to add a new site, site name, let's just call it subdomain HVAC, just for examples here. I'm going to paste the path down here since I have it in my clipboard. That's the same path that we got right out of cPanel. Now the site URL is going to be this one right here. So it's http:// this sub1.hva sending certification info.com, and don't forget the /. This is the username and password for the WP admin. FTP domain would be, you do not need to recreate another FTP if you already have it, so it's just basically this HVAC training one, but ftp.hvac-training-certification-info.com. We've already created this in Cloudflare, so there's no reason to create another one. And then the username and password is your main cPanel username and password. Nothing to do with the add-on domain or the subdomain or anything. It's just the main cPanel username and password. So we've got that added on. We add the site, but that subdomain is still not working because we need to also add it to Cloudflare. So we have to, I've got Cloudflare opened up here. Let's pretend I'm on the home page.
Remember, guys, sometimes you get logged out. So, I see a lot of that from Vicky and from it and logged them out. Always, before you go onto your screen and start working on it, just make sure you're still logged in. Just hit F5 refresh on your keypad.
And so we're here. We got to pull up the DNS records for this HVAC training one. Just waiting for this to load up. There we go. And we're going to add a new, just add a CNAME record. Let's go over to the cPanel. We named it, the subdomain is sub1. So we add that sub1, and then we just copy the URL. And we can hit done entering. Actually, to go back to it, there's one little thing I missed. Notice that the cloud, not there, so just make sure that traffic that actually is going through Cloudflare, it's getting filtered out. And that's it. So now you've got a subdomain that you can work off of. And when you go to build out a new site off of that subdomain, it's right there. So that's basically all you need to do to add a subdomain to the ATM through cPanel and through Cloudflare. Okay, let's see. Other questions? He says AdSense allows 3 occurrences per article. I don't know. Actually, I don't think there's a limit on how many AdSense ads you could have per article. I know that I use the CTR theme whenever I'm doing AdSense. I use the CTR theme. Just put the codes in there, and they handle the distribution of the ads and all that.
Guys, Don has it set up where you can put them right in your sidebar as well, or you can put it in the other, or you can use the plugin, the AdSense plugin for WordPress. You only need to put 2 in. I mean, if people are getting there and they're not going to click through to one of your schools, at least they'll grab one of those AdSense, and you'll get something out of it. But don't you don't have to stuff it with AdSense.
Okay, Kevin was asking if it's okay to use full state in the title. It is. I'm sure that this was answered as I was going through, but it is okay to use full state in the title. I used it in the one that I was just building out right now. Rob, what do we use for legal pages? The sites that get put out by the app already have built-in legal pages, so you're covered on that. We have the template that we use. We'll go through and then spin it a little bit, make it somewhat unique. Not so much. You don't really need to have unique legal pages, but those are already covered in the sites. As soon as they go live, they already have the About Us page, the Terms of Service page, the stuff in there about the dark cookie for Google AdSense, and all that other stuff is covered, so we're good to go there.
The FTC page is in there as well, that we might get paid for the traffic that comes on there. Everything is auto-inserted, guys. That's all in the footer.
Okay, Ganti was asking if the cPanel username and password are the ones created by Dawn and sent to you. Yes, those were the ones you received in the email. You can use them as is. If you want to change it, you can go ahead and change it. They're unique to each user, but it's completely up to you if you want to go ahead and change it. Just make sure you make those changes when you add your sites, that you're no longer using that cPanel. Well, you can't change the username, but you can change the password. John C. was asking that in earlier videos I showed you to make them all RAID records. Basically, I just spoke with Don. I was asking him if it's better A record, CNAME. He said it was better CNAME. I honestly don't understand the technology. Well, no, never mind. He just told me in the chat that do A record. So I guess both ways work. For subdomains, it's A records. So so what I just showed with the Cloudflare, instead of using, we go back over here and doing the CNAME, I would just delete that. Do a record. The main difference with the A record is that instead of using a URL, you're using the IP for an A record, but both of them will work. One's just, I think, a little bit quicker than the other. But the training that we originally showed you in the app works. Do's and CNAME works. Let's see, next question. No / an FTP path. That's correct. No / in the FTP path. Just copy and paste it straight out of how it comes from the cPanel. That's why it's important to copy that when you're creating the account in cPanel. When do we install the theme we want to use? David asked. Well, after the site is deployed. If you want to switch out the theme, you don't want to use the basic theme that we have on there, you can go ahead and change it out after the site is deployed. Just remember that if you had anything in the scripts, that's not going to be copied over to your theme because that's hard-coded into the footer. And also, all those links, if once you see the site live and you see the footer links, those are hard-coded into the footer. So those will disappear if you switch the theme. But you can switch the theme, and it works well with whatever theme. I mean, it is a normal, 100% normal WordPress installation. If you notice, some of my sites will be on CTR, some of them will be on Genesis. I've tested a lot of different themes, but all the sites were built through the ATM. Valerie was asking, where's the tag tool located? It's right when you're creating the content. If you go to the ATM, content, add new content, here's you click on this generate tags from keyword list, and it's going to pull up that tag tool where you can just copy a list of keywords and just make sure, like I mentioned, keep it to 10. 10 per group. You don't want any more than 10 category or 10 tags for post. I would click onto it now, but I would have to change out the screen that the Hangout is currently showing. But that's where you will find that keyword tool. Pigwick for tracking. I'm going to have to do it a separate. The Pigwick one is a little bit more technical because we actually kind of hacked our own Pigwick installation. With the current version that they have out, you can't do it, but with the previous version, we did a little hacking to where we could add the same exact code to every single site, and it would automatically add it to our dashboard. But I got to see if I can find an older version of Pigwick and show you guys a video of how we do that, because it really made things real simple. But I promise if I find that, I'll make a video for it and put it up on the and send you an email with it. Another question about Pigwick, I'll have to do a video on that. Question on subdomains, how many is a good number to work with? I've tested up to 5 or 6 and haven't had any issues with it. Now every single one of my sites does not have subdomains. I would say I think I have like 3 or 4 with subdomains on. So I haven't done a lot of testing with it. I know Brian at one point had one with like 500 subdomains and they got penalized for it. So there's definitely
big penalty. 9 months to get it back.
So you know, I think if you keep it to 3 to 4, 3 to 5 subdomains, you'd be good. But definitely do testing with and without subdomains. I wouldn't use subdomains on every single site. How would you set up a site for call tracking purposes? The way I would do it would be to use the double agent plugin, most likely, and pretty much think of the ATM site as a traffic funnel. So you're getting traffic, but you're using the double agent to show a better designed landing page with a specific phone number so that you can track the calls through there.
Yeah, I would not use the sites as we set them up with this theme for but you can do it with anything else through double agent. And next week we will be giving out a core conversion plugin that you don't have to fill out anything. It's just going to do the one page, the one site, do the entire site with one URL, and I'll be giving it away to everybody in here. So if you don't have double agent, you don't have to get it. I will be giving away one that has been it's being written for me right now.
Can we camouflage the outgoing link so it appears to be part of the content, but it's actually clickable? I'm pretty sure you can via CSS type stuff. I've never attempted it. I always try to, like my outgoing links, I always put them towards the bottom because I know basically the content that we're putting on these, I'm not concerned if I don't want people to read them. I don't want them to get the information they're looking for from the article. I want to push them to either click on the AdSense ad or not find the information they want in the article, so they put in their zip code to generate the lead. And as crappy as that sounds, we don't want our article to be very helpful because if they get the information they're looking for right out of our article, then they have no reason to click on the ad or no reason to submit a lead because they've got their answer. So I throw them towards the bottom of the article. I know that most people are going to skim it and they're not really looking for anything, so they're just most likely are not going to click on any of those links. The widget itself on the top does a good job of getting their attention, and it draws them to it. So ideally, that's the action we want them to take.
Andres, Don and I haven't used AdSense at all. We don't even have an AdSense on any of the sites. hundreds and hundreds of them.
How are we indexing the pages? Honestly, for the most part, we're just using the built-in promotion button that if you go to my sites, once the site is live, I don't know if I have any of them actually deployed. Yeah, I've got the lead one that I did on the video. You can use this promote button right here. So it does a little bit of rapid indexing, pinging, and so that's what we use, and just kind of let it do its own indexing. If I wanted to index specific set of posts, then I would use Don's Crazy Indexer, crazyindexer.com, and that's what I've been using to if I wanted to drop in 100 URLs or so. That's the one that I recommend. Okay, let's jump on to the next one. Vicky was asking, can we use the exact article from eZine with just using last paragraph spun and not getting penalized? Yes, you can. Just like I grabbed the exact article right off of article base and I just threw in, because we're basically changing it up by throwing in that city, state, city, full state. We do have that last paragraph spun. Do we need to give attribute to that author? Not, I don't. Not sure if that's the right way or wrong way to do it, but I don't link out to it at all whatsoever. I don't put a link saying that this article came from here or anything like that. I just I grab it, put in the city, state short codes throughout, and you're good to go. But I mean, if you feel that you need to attribute that particular author, then you can go ahead and do that. But if you're asking me the way I do it, I just grab it, put in my short codes, and no attribute whatsoever.
Guys, let me tell you that's something else that is considered a footprint. We stopped doing it. There was someone that was putting eZine, that was attributing the article source, and all of a sudden he found out it was a footprint. And the next thing you know, they got slapped around on all those sites. Some of them did actually even get it de-indexed. So I wouldn't bother with it. I really wouldn't bother with any attribute on it, especially if you're changing enough of it that it doesn't matter. And the city-state does that.
Okay, Maria was asking if there's a recording. Yeah, this Hangout automatically, as soon as it ends, we'll have a replay, which is why I wanted to do a Hangout. I like that about it. So yes, there is a replay. Can we make the legal pages no index? Pretty sure you could do that. There's got to be a certain plugin for that, but actually I think you would do that through the Yoast SEO. You can add that. You can go specifically to that page and make it no index. But I can talk to Don and see if he automatically will add that to it. Joy, she's what you would use or not use a subdomain for, and why is it good or bad? Basically, let's say you have the main domain is trainingcolleges.com. So you would use, that would be the main domain. So ideally, you would have subdomains for different categories. You would have a subdomain for HVAC. You would have a subdomain for nursing. You would have a subdomain for what's another one? Nursing, business administration, medical assistant. So you would just create a different subdomain for each of the different areas of interest that you're going to hit with that site. And subdomains work best when you have a generalized domain like that. That's the few times that I've used subdomains. I've had domains that have just like schools.com, or not obviously schools.com, but some schools something, but it's not going after a specific sector of schooling. And then I use the subdomains to target them even more. So that's when I've used subdomains. That's why I have used them. There's absolutely no requirement to use subdomains. It was just somebody that was asking. Basically, I think what people are trying to do is they're trying to minimize the expenditure on a domain. They're just trying to get as much squeeze as much out of a domain as possible by doing that, which I can see how why that would be good. So it's completely up to you whether you want to do a subdomain or not. And your other question was the edu zip widget. What is that actually for? The edu zip widget is the zip code widget that shows up at the very top of the page. Let me see if I've got it. If I have any of these sites live that I can show you. No, that's not it. Don't think I have any on here that I can show you what that. But basically, when you go to the site, I don't have the zip widget on this one, but it's a little box at the top of the website that will just ask the person to put in their zip code to find schools local to the area. That zip widget's how you're going to generate the leads, honestly. That's where people come to the site, they put in their zip code, it gives them the local schools that are available to them, and they pick one of those schools, request more info, and that's a lead. Now, when they're going through that, they could also pick a couple other schools. So from that one person, you could end up with 3 or 4 leads because they want information from other schools. And I think that was one of the questions in the forum was, can we generate more than 1 lead per person? And yes, you can. If they request information from more schools, which Campus Explorer does a good job of pushing that, at making sure that they request for more than 1 school, then you'll notice sometimes that you might have 1 visitor ask for leads, but that turns into 3 to 4 leads because they've asked for multiple schools. All right, let me jump right back up to the top. Joyce said sort of put it into a category. That's correct. The subdomains, it allows you to, it allows the subdomains, you're kind of categorizing each subdomain. So if you have a main URL, then that's just very generalized, then the subdomain allows you to kind of make that a little bit more specific. Rob was asking about legal pages. Do we add them when the site is built? I answered that one already, that the site's are already built with legal pages, so you're good to go.
By the way, guys, Don just pinged me. He wasn't sure if the legal pages were no index still. He had it both ways, so I asked him, I said, yeah, might as well just put them no index. So I think it's going to be changed into no index, and don't worry about it.
Okay. Another Paywick question. I'll make a specific video for Paywick. It's a little bit more. Once you get it, the setup itself is a little bit technical, but once it's set up, you're good to go. Any other plugins that I would add to the site? I don't. Whatever they're deployed with. Basically, when we started out, when Don and I started talking about this app, I was doing a lot of it manually, and he asked me, like, what exactly are you doing to your sites? What are you including? What are you leaving out? So that when he built out the app, he wanted to make sure that it was just basically replicating everything that I've done for the past 2-3 years, and just automating it. So all the plugins that it's deployed with, or even the plugin that he wrote, that you see that the little helper plugin or whatever that's in there, are just little snippets of code that we've taken from other things we were doing manually and put it into the plugin itself, so that we don't have to go in and add anything once the site is deployed, because we wanted something that we can just go through and add sites, deploy them, not have to worry about it, just jump to the next one, except with the exception of doing the cleanup when you get the email, which I'm pretty sure I noticed here in the ATM that there was still stuff in the queue, so don't think that I'm going to be getting this email during the Hangout, but I posted the video last week on Friday on the forum of what to do after you get that email, so that should take care of that. Yes, Peter, I can give you the if I can find the Pigwik files that I modified to make sure that it's super easy to add it side by side. I'll get that out to you guys. Um, John asking if you can make a shortcode for all the locations in the UK. Not yet. The shortcode, when you add a shortcode, we don't have it set up to work with a list like that so that you can build a site off of that list. Right now you have to just use the list that we've got built into it. But I do know that that's something that Don has in the back of his mind as far as adding, because I've even asked him for it myself so that I could just load up my own list and do some more custom type stuff. So that is coming, but at the moment, the list, you have to work off what's already in the database in there. When I'm using subdomains, do I also have a site on the main domain or only on subdomains? When I've done subdomains personally, I've only used the sites. I've only used sites on the subdomains. The main domain has been blanked out, just because it's such a general domain that I haven't done anything with it. That I just use the subdomains to target the specific niches. But I'm sure you could do something to where you build out 5 or 6 subdomains, and then in the main domain kind of have maybe like a directory set up to where you can direct people to the specific subdomains. Not sure, but I think that would be, if I was going to do it, that'd probably be the way I do it. But I've tried to keep it as simple as possible, and I just use the subdomains and leave the main domain empty. David asked, would Campus Explorer mind if we had a phrase such as most people check out 4 or 5 schools? Not at all. I've had that in all of my sites previously, to kind of give them, just plant the idea that they want to request information from more than one school, and there's nothing wrong with that. Excuse me. Can we put an exit pop? Definitely. I'm not too familiar with using them, but yeah, it's, like we said, this is a 100% fully working WordPress site, so anything you can do in WordPress as far as plugins and all that, you'll be able to do to these sites. Have I used Index Assault? I have not. I have zero experience with it. I haven't had any need to, just because Crazy Indexer and the built-in promotion works well.
Hey guys, Andres, Don just pinged me. All builds going forward are no follow on the legal pages. It's already done inside the system, so you don't even just wanted to touch asking if you can do. These are regular WordPress sites when they come out. Anything you can do with a regular WordPress site, you can do with these. We just built them in the simple format, so you can just put them up 1, 2, 3, done. As I said in the original webinar, throw enough shit against the wall, a lot of it's going to stick. Now, that might not be the right terminology to use or whatever, but we built hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And you guys are still thinking of building a site. Don't think of building a site. Think of building 100 sites. Don't think of a conversion on a day. Think of how many conversions you get and leads you get for the entire month. That's how you got to look at it. Remember, if you get 1 lead a day for a site, that's nothing. But if you multiply that by 50 or 100 sites, that's 50 to 100 leads a day. That's how you got to think. I'm sorry, Andres. Go ahead. I apologize.
No problem. All right, guys. I got about 5-10 minutes left, so I'm going to try to fly through the rest of the questions here. And any that I don't get to, I will make sure that you're on the email list. I have the log of all the questions that are coming through, so I'll be able to hit them even if I don't get to it in this hangout. Just have to go in a few minutes. But Harlan was, is there any shortcode for siloing? There is not at the moment, but if you, obviously you have SerpShaker. If you're here, I'm pretty sure everybody that got into the ATM has SerpShaker. But you can use the same link next, link previous, and then when the site is live, you can go ahead and just activate SerpShaker, and that's going to work out. But there's no, at the moment, there's no previous or next to kind of do it that way. Any secret strategies for backlinking? We have done zero backlinking to these. For the most part, they work really well. I have done some testing with private blog networks, private blog network that I set up for myself. That's worked really well. So if you're familiar with PBNs and you know how to set it up, and that cloud, don't go the cloud PBN, and there's a lot of stuff that popped up from that with that launch that I would not recommend that product. But if you look into PBNs and you know how to do it the right way, they can definitely give some good juice, and that's just linking to the home page, nothing sent to any of the inner pages. When we mention cleanup, that just means after the site is built, you're going to receive an email saying the site is built. You need to log in. You need to reset the permalinks. You need to activate the sitemap plugin, and you need to do the CLG sub-ID stuff, which it's a shame I did not get the email, but let me just show you real quick. But the sub-ID, so there's no questions about that. And I did create a video about this. It's in the forum. But if we go to APIs, we just made this site live, let's just say. So we add a new one. We're going to do CLG sub-ID. And we're going to create, ideally you create a new CLG sub-ID for every single site so that you can track which site's bringing you leads. Once Dawn gets the reporting feature up, but you create a new one. So you can use, now this sub-ID has to be unique for everybody. So in the video I said use your first 3 initials and then the next, the next number up. But if somebody happens to have the same first initials as you, then it could create some issues. So if the system won't allow you to add a sub-ID if somebody else has it in there. So if you get an error, that's why you're getting that error. And then here's where we put what the, just something for tracking purposes as well, but I like to just copy the site URL without any dots though.
If you use the, Andres, Dot has the best idea with it. If in the API key you use the site ID, you will never have a duplicate. So that's a big deal.
Oh, that's true too. Okay. Okay, I didn't think about that. So we can, yeah, that's great. We could do the site ID as the API key. And then here we can I just put it HVAC trading certification info. I removed the dot, but I left the com in case I have a .NET as well. And then we can add this API entry. So then when the site is live, we go to the settings sub ID and we copy this 2955. And as long as that's in there, then the leads will be attributed to you. So that's what the cleanup is, and there is a video about it in the forum, so just make sure you go check it out.
Well, the leads will be attributed to them.
You're breaking up really bad, Brian.
But it's only for their tracking, Andres. Don't let them think attributed to them gives them the impression that they need it, or else they won't get the leads. You'll still get the leads. It's only for the tracking that Don is setting up.
Right.
That's all that's for.
Right. How do we manage all these sites? Honestly, for me, Paywick was the lifesaver to be able to see which ones were bringing traffic in and not. So that's why I want to make sure that I get that video out to you guys so you start seeing how to add them to Paywick, because it gives you a nice little interface that you can check daily to see which ones are getting traffic or not. All right, 2 more questions. Do I ever put a video on the site? If I ever put a video, it's always on the sidebar. I've never really tried any in the content itself. I just use it, and once the site is live, I go to appearance widgets and I grab the embed code right off of YouTube and put it in the sidebar. And if you've done any searches, you'll find my videos and you'll see that all of them have like a little video in the sidebar. Deployed a site but got no email. You have to wait. Yes, you do have to wait for it to get out of the queue before you get that first email. So the first email you get is basically saying, hey, we've started working on your site. The second email is saying that it's done. But like I said, when you put something in the queue, you're not going to get, at this moment, you're not getting any kind of notification or anything. We will probably work something in so it's not as confusing. But so don't try to re-queue it or think that anything's wrong. Just let the system run out. Now if it's been like 24 hours and you still haven't gotten an email, then yeah, there's definitely probably an issue. But otherwise, you should be good to go. What makes ATM sites outrank? Hold on, let me get to this one. What makes ATM sites outrank other ATM strip shaker? Honestly, we don't know. Some sites will rank better than others. It seems like they swap positions from day in to day out. One day, my site will be higher. The next day, Don's will be higher. The next day, could be one of yours that's higher. And it just, because there's so many posts out there, the different cities will just kind of swap and they shuffle a lot. There's not a lot of stability to the rankings for the most part.
And that's why no stability. That's why you keep throwing more and more up. Because Google doesn't like you today doesn't mean tomorrow you won't rank for 4 different sites and take the first 4 slots on the search engine results. This is not a science that one site will make you a ton, and that's it. This is a science of make a little bit of money, really liked by Google, and they'll stick for a long time and make you a lot of lead. I mean, you're not spending the time you think you're spending on here. You don't need to spend all that time. Just keep building them.
Brian,
change them up a little here and there.
Your audio is coming up really bad. Your audio is coming through really bad. Must be the connection. It must be the connection.
Yeah, it is. Sorry.
But so it seems like we've hit. I know there's a few questions that are lingering here. I'll make sure that I take care of those in a later email. I'm gonna have to end the hangout here. The last question I saw, I just happened to pop in. It's can we adjust the width of the sidebar? You can if you have knowledge of working with the CSS and doing stuff, man. Because it's just basically I think it's a 2013 theme that comes with WordPress that we've modified a little bit to work with our setup. But if you're comfortable with doing that, you can. We've never really had to because we just the method the setup that I've used was very similar to what is being put out with the 2013 theme. So we just keep it that way, but you can. And then if there is any other questions, I mean, you've got the emails that I sent out announcing the webinar, and just feel free to reply to that, ask me on there. I'll make sure that any of these other questions that came in, like I said, I got a log of all of them, so I'll make sure that I hit them all, and I'm sorry that we didn't get to go through the cleanup part, but there is a video in the forum. Make sure you go check it out to see what are the steps after the site is deployed to take in order to make sure that the site's actually working. And some of you have mentioned that you've had 500 errors, that page not found type errors whenever the site is live. That just means the permalinks are not set. So just watch that video. That will take care of that, and you'll be good to go. Thank you for giving us almost 2 hours of your time to take a listen, and I hope that everybody can continue popping out sites and that this was helpful and answered a lot of the questions that you had.
Guys, thanks a lot. I also appreciate everybody being here. I'm going to the eye doctor. You guys have a great day now.
All right, goodbye.